Now, for 17 years, Manchester United, fans all over the world, has been crying out to get the Glazers out of the club. This is the final crescendo what's playing out right in front of our eyes as the British crown jewel of English football is on the verge to being sold. We've been saying green and gold until we sold, and the moment is playing right in front of our eyes, and there's nothing we can do about that because we don't have any say or control who the new owners is. But what is evidentially enough is that we are finally seeing the end of the Glazer area. It's like Manchester United has been trying for the past 10 years at least, trying to run forward to win things by being pushed back. You know, it's like trying to run and somebody's kind of tied a rope against your waist and pulling you back, only focusing on business instead of football. Manchester United PLC was listed on New York Stock Exchange as a business. If you read the description, it did never mention a football club. It's a business entity. Now, what's been transpired now is what we're gonna look in all the facts and details, debunking the timeline as we are entering the final race. It's quite interesting because you might even call it an F1 Formula 1 race where you have pole positions, as what some media outlets are reporting. This is the final crescendo of a potential sale of Manchester United, something that we've been crying out for years. And some media outlets are even rattled and scared and driving a xenophobic or Islamophobic agenda. We're going to also look into that. But what really matters is at the end of the day that any bid that comes in for Manchester United at this point of stage is better than the 17 years sheer madness and the robbery that we had by the Glazers. Now, for you that don't really understand what a tender process and bidding process is, I decided to share a clip that I did for educational purposes in the Glazers Out report, outlining the 4 stages in any bidding process that is globally standard, utilized by any financial group or any mergers and acquisitions in selling and buying a club. Let's have a look at that one, shall we?
Now, speaking about processes, there's certain things that we need to understand when it comes to acquisitions of clubs. In order to sort of give you the most accurate information and also to educate myself, I've taken the opportunity to reach out to some of my contacts on LinkedIn to speak to them that works within, you know, KPMG, Bain Group, etc. that are similar like the Raine Group. But the process is kind of summarized what we discussed first. Each party needs to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, and that's why you're kind of not hearing anything leaked out to the press. Nobody really knows. So I've compiled as much as information as possible by speaking to my contacts within the financial world, and the document that I compiled is what I want to share in terms of the seller's process, in terms of merger and acquisition. But in this case, it's an acquisition, and the case studies that they're giving me is similar to selling any kind of big corporation as well. So bear with me, I'm just going to share the document with you. Just going to open up the screen here. Now, the document that I prepared is based on my conversations with my contacts, and they've kind of given me the indication that in any, like, you know, mergers or acquisition, in this case is acquisitions, there are 4 steps, which is preparation step, the buyer's approach, the marketing phase, the corporate audit and negotiations, and the contract and the conclusions. I quickly want to go over this on a high level to give you the timeline, how long this could take, barring that Chelsea took 3 months, barring that the Glazer wants to sell as soon as possible. It can be fast-tracked, and let me tell you why. In the preparation phase, you know, it's the seller together with the Raine Group, they prepare the sales documents. The M&A, the merger and acquisition consultant, Raine advise and takes a task, and of course to take a commission. They formulate the strategy, the company sale, they approach potential bidders to formalize the strategy. Can the value of the company be increased? This is what we looked at before in terms of the evaluation. They form an information memorandum, company expose, meaning, like, you know, requests for proposals to go out their potential bidders. Number 2 is the buyer approach and marketing phase, where you kind of identify the potential buyers for the or company successors, but in case it's potential buyers. Raine Group does the active search of potential buyers. They approach prospective buyers, also approach the passive buyers, and they have the non-disclosure agreement in place. So in that case, that what we agree here, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You know what I mean anyway. I'm just trying to do this in layman's terms so everyone can understand. Even I find it very hard because it's jargon for me as well. In step 3 is pretty much a corporate audit when in the negotiations, where there's a lot of due diligence coming on. Like, you do due diligence on the evaluation of the share price. You do due diligence of the buyer's, let's say, finances. It's the statement of intent, the sale of the company from a tax perspective as well, right? So this is kind of like a due diligence checklist. Like, what is that? The requirements that the Glazer family and the Raine Group are expecting from the buyer to have. Then we're coming down to the final step, which is the contract and conclusion, which is pretty much the asset deal or the share deal. How much are we going to buy up the share for? We took the example with Elon Musk, which is also the bidding process. I put in a bid for 7 billion, rejected. I raised the bill with 8 billion, accepted. Then it comes to the letter of intent, the company purchase agreement, the earn out clause, the close of the transaction, signing and closing. But I would also say with in between here as a mix up, since it's a football club we're coming to buy, the due diligence also, and this is what the Raine Group is doing, is to liaise that the final price is met with the New York Stock Exchange, the share price holders, the FA, the Premier League, the British government, all approval before they're actually offering and the closing of the transaction. And that's pretty much it from a layman's term. Now, what about the time frame of awarding the contract to the new owner of Manchester United? Well, we've seen evidently what the Raine Group did for Chelsea. That took about 3 months. We know by the facts presented, yet again, this is alternative views, this is my opinions, that there is a little bit of a process. We know that the Glazers and the Raine Group has been out there fishing since late summer. And there's been media reports that these sales can be completed and announced fully by March in Q1 2023.
It is also worth to mention all the factual information sharing from the Manchester United global fan base. We are millions, we are many, more than reporters are. And fans share information. Fans have different positions in different industries. So collectively we have carrying this fight to protest against the Glazers, but also collecting information. Now, for months we've been seeing reports that Glazers are opting to sell Manchester United or look for other alternatives investments. We've seen reports that the Raine Group has been appointed in handling the sales process. Over the months that's transpired, we've seen British media and other so-called sports transfer journalists tweeting, reporting about the sale of Manchester United. But what's ironic enough is that you don't see the Financial Times or financial reporters tweeting anything. We also now throwing back a question back to you as a viewer, putting your logic and reasoning to say, could it be so that the media is playing catch up? Could it be that they don't know? As far as what we know, it is not a public sale. Could it be so that this tender process, which is by the way very complicated, has been going on for months? We are here to talk about it as a collective fan base. We also know that there's been a secrecy in terms of signing an NDA. So how is it so that the press is only reporting two bidders in terms of Ineos, Sir Ratcliffe and Qatar? Well, we have to put our logic hats on with reasoning and look at it from a realistic perspective. Simply because they've chosen to go public. Manchester United is the crown of British football. It's the biggest club in the world. And of course, you will maximize the potential to utilize it as a PR to say that you actually bid for Manchester United.
What's interesting is this article that came out just after Sir Jim had his meeting, and basically saying that United has bid there for Ineos starting a fracking in Texas. What does this mean? Well, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, as a majority of stake in Manchester United, almost saw his chemicals company as a major investment in the US shell industry slip between the cracks. Well, here's the thing, knowing that the financial institutions like the Bank of America is present, knowing that the Raine Group is present, Ineos has now confirmed he utilized the PR machine in terms of getting his recognition into the fracking industry in US, as he hasn't entered that market as of yet.
Now that article is a little bit dubious in terms of what Sir Jim Ratcliffe's intention really are. Okay, we know he's gone public to say I'm going to bid for Manchester United, but he's also say that I cannot really afford it, and I think it's a little bit too expensive. On the other hand, utilizing his position as a PR publicity tool to get into another market, into the oil and gas US fracking, is a clever move, and then spending $1.4 billion in that. So how can he afford then to go into Manchester United? I don't know, you tell me. But one thing is very clear, reading from what the Manchester United base are saying: debt versus no debt. It doesn't matter how you spin it. If you're buying 69% of the overall shares and going bankrolling, we want to know, what does that mean? If you partner up with some hedge fund, even if you take on the debt on Ineos itself, there's got to be some form of return on investment, because that debt doesn't really disappear. It goes on the shareholders, it goes into bonds. And then you look at the purpose of Al Thani and Qatar. Why do they want to buy Manchester United so bad? Simply has to do with post World Cup. They've invested a lot of money into the infrastructure, in sporting events, stadium, metros, a lot of those things. And of course they want to use this as still be relevant in the region to host many other sporting events, not only football. So owning the crown jewel of Manchester United has a price, and definitely, and that price target has been set by the Glazers on $6 billion. That is the asking price. And now we have this.
Sheik Jaseem will make a world record bid for Manchester United. It will definitely be a world record bid. The world record at the moment is £3.75 billion that was paid for the Denver Broncos last summer. The big question is, will it be enough to tempt the Glazer family to sell Manchester United? Our information is that the Glazers are looking for around £6 billion. I've been trying to find out exactly what this bid from Qatar is going to be. I've been asking the question, will it be more than 5? Will it be close to 6? I can't give you an exact figure, but I'm being told it will definitely be a world record. So Sheikh Jaseem is willing to put his money where his mouth is.
We have a bidding war in current situation today, Wednesday, the 22nd. It's reported that Al Thani will go all in to get his price. He has the eye for the price. But who actually set the 6 billion and why? And this is something we have to look into more deeper. But going back in timeline, we need to look how it all transpired and how it began. For you who's followed me, you've seen that I've done my Glazers report back in November. But ever since then, I've been silent, just observing, keeping my powder dry, because what really matters for me is any bid that comes in for Manchester United is good enough, as long as we get the Glazers out for the club. We've been crying out for 17 years, and finally we're getting to the point that's the final crescendo, that we are coming to a conclusion. All right. So the Raine Group has been driving the sales process quite rigorously with an NDA in place. Those who chosen to go forward is the ones that the press has been reporting about. But are they really the winning bid? That's the question we are here to debunk together, right? Whatever I say here might be controversial, might be factual as well. One doesn't have to be a blue tick journalist or transfer journalist to kind of analyze or know what's going on. Even if you have 5,000 connections plus on LinkedIn or those kind of things, you can still find the information. Those that are close to certain groups might have some information. Those are close to the clubs might have that information. As a collective fan base, this is a far more powerful tool. As alluded before, a lot of United fans around the world have various positions in various organizations, and a lot of United fans that are against the Glazers for many years are willing to share that information. That is far more powerful tool than any journalist or any media outlet reporting. Collectively as a fans, we all want Glazers out. But in general, what the club will inform and the Raine Group will inform to the press is the stages where we are. Is it a red herring? The club was already acting like it was sold back in November, or even back in the transfer market window. We saw that 2 weeks closer to the deadline, that all of a sudden United starting on a spending spree, right? Come January, the Glazers did not want to invest anything further into the January transfer market. You got to ask yourself, why is it so, right? Obviously, some people might believe that the club has already been sold. Yeah, that might be so. They might have a verbal agreement in place with the first refusal right, and quickly went to market to say, look, we have a verbal agreement in place, which is kind of reaching to the estimation values of $6 billion, right? That was kind of the benchmark that the Raine Group was looking for. Hence, they invited people in the tender process, such as Qatar, such as Liberty Media and all them jazz, right? They looked under the hood. They evaluated the overall evaluation of about £4.5 billion, I would say, for the club. But everything was set in stone that the Glazers already had a verbal offer in place, which was about $6 billion, right? This was the benchmark. This was the asking price. But in any other layman's term that you might look at when you're putting your house for sale as a broker, you're not disclosing who the other bidders is or what is the price, right? So what you're seeing now with all this meeting taking place in Carrington is to basically show the sporting operation, right? We saw Qatar was in there with the heavyweights of Bank of America, trying to bully them to say we have the better offer, but it's not them who are deciding. You see, if you have a first refusal right, and we're gonna get to that later on the stage, any verbal bid agreement that either Sir Jim or Qatar or any other organization bidding, the Raine Group are entitled, or they must report back to bidder number one to say, here's a competitive offer. Are you willing to go higher? That has been kind of kept in the secrecy, because if you are already the bidder number one, the exclusive bidder in a tender process, that you already put in your verbal bid on $6 billion, you just sit back, watch the whole thing play out. Do Qatar and Sir Jim do the heavy lifting weight, and when you come to the final crescendo, this is where you step in, either to say yes, I'm willing to bid more, or no, I'm not willing to go over.
Sheik Jaseem will make a world record bid for Manchester United. It will definitely be a world record bid. The world record at the moment is £3.75 billion that was paid for the Denver Broncos last summer. The big question is, will it be enough to tempt the Glazer family to sell Manchester United?
The drum roll in this case is, I believe, that I've been saying ever since then, is that I believe that we all see a conclusion by Q1, which is end of March, beginning of April. The Glazers are desperate to sell at the moment. There's pressures from the family in terms of Darcy Glazer and Joel and Avram. We heard arguments that, you know, they're anonymous, that they want to sell. They don't trust Avram and Joel anymore. And if the price comes right, they're willing to walk away with 6 billion in profit. That's 6 times more than they actually invested, because don't forget, their father bought the club on leveraged buyout on debts, and they have not invested one single penny into the club. As a matter of fact, they use Bank of America to create credits, which then turns into bonds, and bonds is something that grows with interest. So Bank of America actually owns the debt of the Glazer family, or the Manchester United PLC. So to own 100% of Manchester United, you have to go through Bank of America to buy that bond as well. Then arguably to say that Bank of America will profit, right? You buy the 69% of the shares that the Glazer family owns, but it will be a one-time payment, because you also need to pay the remaining of the private shares, the B shares. This is what's going to be happening right now. You can go back in the Glazer out report, or even go back in the short snippets on different chapters that are done, 5, 6, and 7, and you will see in layman's term what this means. But we are entering into the final crescendo, and I believe that by come Wednesday or this Friday, we will have a exclusive bidding war. It will be a bloody war between two bidders, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe has kind of been outbid. He's not willing to put I don't know, it's just reports came out today that he's initially was willing to buy the club, and his valuation of 4 billion, and to be bankrolled, and basically use JP Morgan to take over that bond that Bank of America owns. So by my conclusion and understanding is that the silent bidder is always been ICD in Dubai, because the trails points back already back in the summer. The Glaze has been spotted being in Dubai numerous occasions, discussing with ICD, and I believe that had a verbal offer in place. That's what I've been told, because I know a lot of things about Dubai, as they are being my client for a long time in a way. But there's certain things that I've been able to disclose and not disclose. But since we're coming to the end of the crescendo, I wouldn't be surprised that the media is starting to pick up that the two bidders right now in this bidding war will be Qatar and Dubai ICD. They are by far arch enemies. If you understand the region, you understand that they are constantly competing to be the biggest and the best. And Dubai doesn't need to have publicity, because Dubai has already set the standards of a modern, developed, forefront thinking emirate. They are sort of the benchmark what Qatar wants to be, what Saudi wants to be. They basically developed, a desert to a, blooming capital where you have foreign investments. So there's several reasons why the silent bidder has been silent, because they don't need to. They're confident enough that the bid that they put in with the first refusal right will be revised back to them. So they can either go up to 8 billion, which I initially reported in, or they can say, no, we are good. We will let this one go to Qatar. Now, Qatar has been very, very forefront to say, we want this, we want this. There's even been reports that they're going the back door, going directly to the Glazer families to close this off by Wednesday. And why Wednesday? Because it's Ramadan is coming. And during the Ramadan, it's the holy month. That's basically the whole nation stops. You're only working a few hours a day, and then you're fasting. And of course, there's the Glazers as well. They want to sort of close this deal too as soon as possible. there's reports coming out that the Glazer family siblings are getting very impatient and not happy with the handling of the Raine group, that things are slowing down the process. Initially was set that the second bid to the other bidders was 10 days, but that's been shortcut to 7 days, meaning this Wednesday. Right. From now on, I would see that this will be a shotgun bidding war. Right. This will be concluded very, very soon. And it's also reported that the Qataris are not liking this shadow bidding war. Hence, they are saying, here's money on the table, take it or leave it, or we will walk away. Or, hey, we're willing to have this fight. All right. This is my take and analysis on it. Basically, doesn't really have to transpire that way, but according to the information that I have, I'm not well versed with what's happening in Qatar, but I know what's going on in the region and how it works between those two states or countries within the GCC region. At least it is kind of becoming a bragging right of, you know, I had the World Cup, I had the Expo 2020, and I own Newcastle, I own PSG, and the local Emirate, next door neighbor Emirate Abu Dhabi owns City. So rest assured that I believe that we will have a conclusion. And at the end of the day, even if it goes to Dubai or any of those Middle Eastern owners, rich owners, United will end up in good hands, because we surely need to clear the debt. We surely need to build a good infrastructure in place, and we surely need to get back to our winning ways. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. This is Mick Ruby, MUFC Realist TV, with a short update. We are looking forward to cover this full-fledged and see how this transpires. But please remember, this is my views, my findings, my analysis, and my opinions. But I'm sure interested to hear about yours. So leave a comment below, like and subscribe to this video. And it's green and gold until we're sold. Remember this. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for stopping by and watching MUFC Realist TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on the socials.